Hi, everybody. This is Cheryl Cullum, and we are on our episode 2 for AI Sentinel Institute. And today's episode, we're going to talk about what leaders need to know to implement AI ethically and responsibly in healthcare analytics. Tom, you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, Tom Martin again. Glad to be here with all of you again. My background in payment integrity and AI ethics, and working with AI responsibly. So yeah, look forward to the topic and look forward to talking with all of you.
Awesome. So the last time we talked about a framework on AI governance and ethics, and we kind of went over some key areas, pillars of those frameworks. Today we're going to be talking about deep dive, a little bit more in depth, um, but high level enough that everybody can kind of pick up from of some get some nuggets of
Yeah.
information that you can actually start to apply in your organization or in your decision making. So with AI governance, especially in healthcare, we're still in that journey, the beginnings of, I would say, the beginning journey, especially
Pioneers.
yes, especially in our country, honestly, because we don't
Yeah.
there's nothing yet set in stone. However, there are some key principles and pillars in especially when making decisions that are already established when it comes to um, governance, ethics, and implementing technology as a whole, right? So we're going to take some of that knowledge and experience that we've had over, over the decades of years we've been working here in the industry, and then we're also tying that in with research that we've been working toward, we've been doing, learning about AI as they come out. And there's still many that we can still learn from other countries also. Um, so let's talk about what what leaders need to know to implement AI ethically and responsibly. The first
Yeah.
pillar that we have here is readiness. Um, Organizations have to be ready, right? And so what does that look like? Tom, you want to shed some light into that?
Oh, definitely. Go back to being pioneers. I mean, literally, it is the Wild West, and I mean, it's just unfortunate. So I think some of this, again, you're going to hear us repeat ourselves. It's not because we're just repeating ourselves. It's because these are things that we continually have to discuss, we continually have to go over. So when you think about readiness, one of the first things is really your data quality and your integration. And I know everyone's like, Tom, but you shut up about data quality and shut up about data. No, you can't. You really can't, because again, it's the foundation. And if your foundation is faulty, anything you're doing with AI is ultimately just not going to be successful. So is your data of good quality, and do you have it integrated across whatever business problem you have, the departments that you need, the data that you need, whatever the inputs that you need and features, is the data there, and is it systemically collected and organized? So first off, there's going to be variability in data collection methods. I mean, that's a foregone conclusion, whether it's from an intake call from customer service, it's from a claim form, or it's just an EDI FTP feed that you receive. I mean, there's going to be variations in how data is actually is stored and collected. But one of the key things that we really have to really consider is to kind of dial it down back to basics, is structured versus unstructured data. So what do I mean by that? Well, again, not trying to insult anyone's intelligence, but when you think about structured data, this is really everything we're comfortable with, kind of things that you can query, things that are in a table. Maybe it's age, maybe it's condition code, diagnoses, procedure code, admit date. I mean, these are things that, yeah, we are all comfortable with, and you write queries on, and you can sit there and develop a report and KPIs. Absolutely. The scary thing is that it's estimated that anywhere from 10 to 20% of a healthcare organization's data is structured. The 80 to 90% is unstructured. So what do I mean by unstructured? Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because that's really, really important. Unstructured data is everything else that is really unorganized, that you can't put into a table, you really can't query. It's very complex. It's a lot of different sources you're getting this stuff from. So let's talk about that a little bit. So what do I mean by unstructured data? Because it is important. So when you think about a medical record, would you call that structured or would you call that unstructured? Well, it's going to be unstructured, right? Right? Because it's not organized. There's no predefined manner. There's no template this is going into. It's just a bunch of clinical notes. Maybe it's medical imaging, doctor notes, maybe even an audio recording, like a patient interaction, even as scary as it could be, even a wearable device may have some unstructured data on it that you're collecting from a patient or on a site. What do you do with that data? Can you do anything with that data? Well, again, if you think of structured data, ultimately you could query a procedure code and you could proceed, look at a DRG and say, well, this sepsis DRG is here. Okay, fine. But unstructured data will allow you to dive into that even further to say, well, wait a minute, this is a sepsis DRG, but I don't see anything in the doctor notes related to any type of sepsis interaction. So is this a correct diagnoses code? The other one that's been brought up before, which I think is really interesting, again, it's kind of sad to talk about, but when you're thinking about a neonatal claim, a lot of times when you have this type of complex interaction, you might have an infant, just born, a baby that might have vomiting. And they have to, doctors have to do all these elements to make sure that the baby is okay. Well, it's a more complex clinical case in this scenario. It's going to have a higher DRG. It's going to be more expensive for the health plan. Again, if it's accurate, completely fair. But in some instances, when you go through the notes, well, it's just, again, it's not vomiting to the level that you need a complex clinical interaction. It's not that complex of an encounter. Therefore, well, why are you billing that high DRG? Prior to, we might have had a spot audit and someone have to take 1 to 2 hours to go through the medical records. But now with AI and unstructured data, natural language processing, just advances in OCR, it can find and pinpoint to say, wait a minute, this DRG at this level, the records and the information do not substantiate that level of care. And that's really what we're getting into more deeply. Now, there's challenges with this, of course. I'm not going to go in the challenges of structured data. We all get that. We talk about that ad
It's a
nauseum.
pain point.
Yeah, and I mean, there's plenty of it, right? It's just the data's not clean. The data's you got null values. We get that. I don't want to continue to focus on that. But when we're thinking about unstructured data, first off, is just the volume of this. Again, remember, 90%, 80%. How do you ingest all of that? The volume of this, the computing power, just the ability for AI to ingest all of this. Again, you have to pinpoint that business problem. It's not, I want to take every medical record and put them in the system and yay, I'm doing a great job. No, you might need to focus on a few cases, a few hospitals, maybe a few DRGs to then kind of isolate what you're looking for. If you're trying to find readmissions, okay, great. Do you see readmissions in the notes? Do you see why there was the patient had to come back for whatever lung related issue they had? So that's the kind of stuff that you want to look for. And again, data quality and consistency. Again, they've done pretty good with natural language processing and OCR and understanding these records, but some of these notes could be a little wonky. You
Yeah,
might have inconsistency in the notes, right? You might have, we've worked on projects with this before. That there's
yep.
issues again with really auditing these records. Sometimes it
Mhm.
takes people hour to 2 hours to go through some of these. This will help speed it up, but again, you don't you're still not going to get out of that. But then, most importantly, are you extracting the relevant information? Again, if you're running a sepsis algorithm and you're trying to get AI to tighten up your sepsis audits, it takes you 1 to 2 hours to do a sepsis review. You want to tighten that up to maybe 10 or 15 minutes instead of doing one record an hour. I need to hit 5 records an hour. It's completely doable.
That's a
But
game
are you
changer.
extracting right? Are you extracting the right information? And that's the problem. So if you're sitting down and you're not writing the correct algorithm or the word capture, it's just not going to be there. So unstructured data, very rich. It's a very innovative solution for AI, and it's certainly a situation that could be a complete game changer and how you're operating your business.
Yeah, and I would consider, so in our experience, to me, like especially in health plans, healthcare, structured data is kind of like your claims data, right? It has a specific
Yeah,
areas
yeah,
of key points. But once you start to submit like authorizations, for example, we need like
for
just
sure.
justification of treatment and or let's say you've got like a lot of the neonatals actually require some authorizations. You have to submit some like records from like doctors' records, nurses, clinical notes, whatever that looks like. Usually when we see that, when we get that when you get that, it's just a scanned copy of the notes, right? And I say this, but I used to transcribe doctor's notes. Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
They
Wow.
scribble like
I bet that was fun.
they scribble. Like I'm like, what does this mean? And I'm like this,
Yeah.
and that's why they come up with a lot of tools nowadays, like EMRs and Dragon, like dictating and all that stuff.
Yes,
Only
for
because
sure.
a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
times those notes are so unreliable, but that becomes part of unstructured data. When you get it scanned, it becomes like OCR, and so this is an area of opportunity that AI can help with. But the key, I want to reiterate, the key, if going back to, is your organization ready? The readiness part, are you able to access that? And can you really like, do you have a data way for your data to get pulled and read by AI, right? Do you have the
Like, do you even
infrastructure?
have like
Do
yeah,
you
do you
have
have
the
an
data?
intake system for these
Yeah,
medical records?
do
Where are
you
you
have
hosting this stuff? Some people don't even have
right,
that.
right, right, exactly. Um, and I have worked in some other area companies where they are absolutely still manual. They don't really like, they don't,
Yeah.
you
A
just
lot
get
of
it,
plants are. They are.
you
Yeah.
get, you get scanned, they don't get OCR. You just literally, a person reads them. So this is like, you know, obviously the key takeaway here is, um, your data sources, your infrastructures for your data, whether it's structured, unstructured, and the area of opportunity obviously is the unstructured. But most importantly, do you understand your own the data that comes into your organization, right? So really
Yeah.
governance,
Yeah.
right? Data governance and data dictionary is like fundamental.
Correct. And again, I think it's marrying structured and unstructured together to say, what insights and what predictions am I trying to come out here with this data? That it's great that I have all these doctor notes, but now what now? Some of them may completely be irrelevant to what you're trying to do. So you don't want to get bogged down to that. That's why again, you're really tightening that algorithm up. And we're going to talk about roles and responsibilities here shortly, but it's why you need that subject matter expertise to help you identify, okay, what am I looking for? I gotta there's a lot of noise here. How do I tailor down the noise so I can pinpoint the algorithm to say that's specifically what I'm looking for? Now, what the other interesting thing is, and I'll just say this as a quick point, the other thing that this level of analysis does for us, and you want to put this in the AI algorithm and in your controls, is that while you're looking for sepsis or a neonatal instance, there could be some other medical encounter, some other note, some other thing in the record that's aberrant to what's happening that could allow you to say, oh, wait a minute, something else is going on with this patient. We need to get a case manager out there to investigate why X is happening. It could have nothing to do with the encounter, could have nothing to do with the authorization, but you look at it and say, but wait a minute, why is XYZ happening? This is aberrant related to this case rate, or this is aberrant related to this patient history. We need to dig into that. Now, that's again a long leap from where you might be to trying to do your analytics, but just think creatively in a sense that it will not only help you target specifically what you're looking for, help you be more efficient, help you to identify certain areas that are pertinent to that business case. At the same time, though, there might be aberrancies that are of value to take a look at to say, well, let's hold up here for a second. There's something more critical going on here that we need to take in consideration. So it's something else to think about. But that's unstructured data and marrying structured data and just the power that AI brings to the table.
Yeah. Okay, so on the topic of like, what leaders need to know to implement AI ethically and responsibly in healthcare analytics, we're still talking about, is your organization ready? The other part of this is people, right? We've got the technology
Oh
pieces,
yeah.
but then we need to start to think about the people, right? What are the roles and the functions of AI tech, that, and to keep it, to implement the technologies, but also make it sustainable, right? Um, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that, Tom?
Yeah, not only that, but it's scalable. I mean, let's face
True.
it. I mean, a
Scalability.
lot of
Yeah.
plans, yeah, a lot of plans are, they're looking to AI to say, well, great, this will help us reduce cost or reduce this and or help us increase here. Great. This, the reality is that, an AI solution to get it started, you have to have key personnel. Now, to be clear, the minimum you need for an AI project is one person. Now, are you going to get the achievements that you need? You might or you might not, depending on the skill set. But at what we're advocating for again is certain key elements and personnel you need. First is a sponsor.
Yeah.
Now, this could be a top level executive. It could be a mid level manager that has a business problem that AI is going to solve. You have to have a sponsor that can get the barriers out of the way, can help with budgets, can help free up staff. This might be something that people are doing on the side of their desk while they're doing their main job. You may have to negotiate for, hey, can I get 20% of this person's time? And what
That
does our
happens all the
budget look
time.
like? Exactly, and it does. If you have to bring in, if I'm a PI leader and I need to bring in an enrollment specialist, because again, my team doesn't know all the enrollment tables or doesn't know things to look at for an enrollment. Yeah, I may have to bring someone in and say, look, can I take 20% of their time for the week to work on project X, whatever the case may be. That has to happen. So a sponsor's there really to be that that yellow belt in a sense, to be that person there that is really advocating for and helping to remove barriers and get these folks what they need in order to be successful. So that's the first role.
Yeah. No, that's
The
good.
second role, this go ahead. Yeah.
No, I agree. But I also want to make sure that we are talking about functions, right? So some of these functions
Yeah,
may already exist in your organization. You don't necessarily have
true.
to hire for them.
This is true. This is true. Yeah, that's a good point. You need to have a product or project manager. And I know everyone kind of rolls their eyes at that, but no, you need to have someone keeping everybody on point. Granted, I would not advocate for a waterfall discipline here. Something more agile, Scrum related is probably going to get you a little further, or slap a Kanban board on it, just whatever the case may be. But at the same time, you have to have a product or project manager keeping you on point. You probably have someone, again, you can negotiate a part of their time, or you can get a project manager fully assigned to this, but keeping everybody on point and again making sure that we're staying within good project discipline. That's always a good key. And I'm going to say this again, and we'll talk about this a little bit later as well. These folks need to capture lessons learned. If this is the first time we've done this, or it could be the 80th time we've done this, what's been working well and what hasn't been working well, being very transparent about that. A project and a product manager can help you with that.
Yeah, I will say I just want to make this clear because this is a role I function in a lot. There is a
Yeah,
delineation between a product and a project manager.
sure.
The product manager is going to be more focused on your features, on like the requirements, understanding really the delivery of and designing the experience or designing the solution with the technical team, right? And then translating all of that, the business requirements into like um, user stories and really being able to identify the roadmap of all of those releases. Our project manager really helps us keeping you on track, the deliverables on time, understanding the budget. Are we still on track with the budget? And so these two are two separate functions, but I will say this, they they might already live in your organization. A person can have the
Yeah.
same a person can have the competency. Just depends on how flexible your teams are, the type of talent that you've been nurturing, um, and the culture, right? So I do recommend some agility here, just because AI is like changing like
Yeah.
in a snap of
Yeah.
a finger.
And you want
But
to fail fast, like you've said before.
yeah,
You want to
fail
fail
fast and fail
fast.
forward, right? Yeah, first attempt
Yeah.
in learning. But we also want to move forward and learning, understanding the learning. That's why we do retrospective. We always do
Hmm.
retrospective biweekly, especially when I'm using Scrum with my teams. So we can learn and develop as we go, right? It's just in time
Yeah.
delivery. You're designing just in time, but then we also want to think about the human centered type of design.
and the sad thing is too, and you're right to delineate between the two, but the sad thing is that you may have to wear multiple hats in these scenarios. AI may be something so new and unique. You might be the pioneer in your own organization. So there
Right.
might be people that have to wear multiple hats, as sad as that is. So again, we all live and work in the real world, so we get that.
Yeah.
The next folks that you really want to tackle are your data SMEs. Now that encompasses a lot of different titles. I mean, data scientists, data engineers. You may have to have machine learning architects. Again, depends on the scope of what you're attempting. Depends on the complexity of what you're trying to do. Regardless, data SMEs are really key to make sure that they understand where the data is housed, how to use the data, how to write the queries and the algorithms to construct the programs, how they need to pull this data in. And at the same time, they're going to be working with, the quality folks, which we'll talk about as well, to make sure that they're running the right algorithms to test to make sure what's our test set, what are we training the model on, what's our validation set. There's a whole host of issues that go into, from a data person and a data expert, what do they need to do to set up the architecture to ingest the data and to make sure they're training the algorithm appropriately and they understood the output of the algorithm, not necessarily the outcome. The outcome is for the business owner, but the output of that algorithm, is it producing what we expected? And if not, how do we go back and find where the issues are? That's where your data SMEs are going to add a lot of value. Again, your data scientists, data engineers probably have some of these folks already. Here's one of the issues though. Are they trained and are they ready for AI and machine learning? They
Yeah.
may not be. This
Machine
is not an
learning.
SQL query. Yeah,
No.
this is Python script. I mean,
Yeah.
this is very
This is
complex
LLM,
code.
right? This is like neural network, like neural.
Right.
I mean, it's very complex. I think some of the I will say this is an area of opportunity to that I foresee. This is just more like forecasting of new roles that are going to be coming out based on the
Yeah.
needs, right?
Yeah.
Where the data,
Yeah.
we're generalizing them to call it data SME just because
Right.
that's, you know, there's so many of them. But when we start to when you start to take a look at AI in general, what is AI? How does it function? It's all about data. It's ingesting large, it's an LLM or large language model, right? It takes a lot of data
It's
and
big
then
data. Yeah.
it's big data and then it does all of like the algorithm and it like, all of this, um, technical things. But basically data is where it actually lives and we feed it data. Now, we'll talk about bias a different time, but these data SMEs or even the new roles that might come out of these, they need to be uh, trained with understanding what even just the fundamental basics of artificial
Yeah.
intelligence, right? Because it's going to
Yeah.
evolve. I will say over time, it's going to evolve and it's going to change, but the fundamental structure of it is the same, right? It's the same as it's machine learning, really. It's machine learning.
And to your point, there's so many tools out there that every day there seems to be a new AI tool. It's hard to catch up
I
with
know.
everything that's happening. I mean, everybody's jumping into the AI sandbox. So every day there's some new AI tool. And maybe TensorFlow is the right answer. Maybe it's a Python script that
We
you're
don't
running,
know.
or maybe it's some other software you want. But that's why your data folks need to say, well, what are we trying to do? And do we have the application in-house, or is this something we need to either create or something we need to purchase?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think part of that is part of your data SMEs should be able to evaluate what structures, like what infrastructures you have, where you are currently, so then you can make
Right,
better decisions as a leader.
right.
Okay, so let's talk about the next
Okay.
role, which is like the domain.
Oh, the domain SMEs. This is your superstars. These are your folks that you really that really understand what needs to happen. Again, if you're writing a readmission algorithm, you're like, look, we want to get AI to do more prepayment readmission. Great. What does that look like? So your domain SMEs are really going to take the policies, the procedures, the regulations for Medicare, for Medicaid, they're going to work with the data SMEs to take very sometimes complex requirements and translate these with the data scientist into, well, how would this work for the algorithm? Now, again, your domain SMEs don't have to be coders. That's not the point. That's not what they
No,
should
and
be.
yeah.
If you have domain SMEs that are
So
coders,
what
please ping me and give me a call. I'm going to hire them because they're valuable. Go ahead. I'm
Oh my
sorry.
God, yes. I'll go find them. But domain SMEs could be your business analyst, could be your
Yeah.
program managers. They could be like, like they've just spent so much time in the business segment of that domain that they become part of a stakeholder, right? They become part of the stakeholder because they have the knowledge to be able to translate some of the needs into um, to building the technology. So this is a collaborative effort. But I do know some developers that are domain SMEs. I won't tell them who you
Yes,
are,
there are
but
some. Yeah, there are some. But at the same
they're kind
time,
of
your
happy where
domain
they are.
SMEs. Yeah, oh, I know. It's tough to hire those folks. But your domain SMEs also know what's specific to your company.
Yeah,
If you're, and again, if you're an Aetna or a Cigna or a Molina or a Centene, that's dealing with healthcare analytics, you all have different policies and procedures. You all have different contracts. You all have different internal decisions that you've made to date. So a readmission to Aetna may look a little different from a readmission from Cigna. Well, these are these domain SMEs will help so that your AI doesn't go haywire. Again, it's not AI's fault. It's the algorithm that you helped code doesn't incorrectly now start firing inappropriate readmission prepayment edits that are going to cause provider aberration and ultimately member aberration. So those domain SMEs are really important. You've got to really get the best of the best to sit down and understand this. These folks can also help you connect the dots. Hey, we need enrollment. Hey, we need PDM.
yeah.
We need a claims person to come and talk to us. So these folks can really help you understand, what is this going to look like, and help the data scientists codify it so that you can have a successful program.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to add for the domain SMEs, because I've worked with many of them, I was one of them. Um, as a growth opportunity in this space, understanding fundamentals of AI is always a good thing, right? Because
That's a
and
good
then
point.
understanding the principles of data governance, data quality, that would just elevate your professional, journey and really your role and function to get you prepared into the future, right? Because we're like I said, we're kind of in this pioneer moment still with AI,
Mhm.
and we don't know what kind of roles are going to be out there, but continuous learning is always key to growth, right? So as a domain SME, whether you're doing encounters, whether you're doing like claims, or you're just doing a specific segment, I'm just doing Medicare, I'm just doing Medicaid, whatever that might look like, understanding the fundamentals of AI and how it applies to healthcare and what it does is something that everybody should know, in my opinion,
Yeah,
especially in this industry that we are, because it's like the internet was born. We talked about this. So learning what that is and how it impacts your professional and your business is always a good thing, because then you can be prepared for the future. And as a leader in this space, what do leaders need to know? These are some things that you can start to nurture in your organization to start to build up, right? Maybe bring in some training on fundamentals of AI, or maybe bring in some experts that can speak about it. And just or some companies have budgets for training, like education budget. Maybe suggest some things to your staff to say, hey, I think this is an area of opportunity we should be learning, and it's good for your growth, and so you can start to kind of mentor and coach and bring up your people to the level of where they're going to need to be when AI comes to your door, when you have to make those decisions.
yeah, absolutely.